independent, semi-autonomous region in northern Iraq, mostly Kurdish. That is a huge issue. There's a lot of untapped oil up there on the border between the Kurdish region and the rest of Iraq. That is an enormous potential asset and also enormous potential flashpoint. Iraq's relationship with Iran, just very quickly, I think we as Americans, and particularly in DC, my personal opinions, overreact when Iraq has a relationship with Iran, economic, and they do cultural, economic ties, political ties. They share an 800-mile border. They're going to have some kind of relationship, and they ought to. But it needs to be the right kind of relationship, not one where they're dominated by Iran. And also, that's obviously also contrary to our interest as well as the world's interest, I would say. And then what their relationship is going to be with us as well. These are things that they never were really able to get to solving, or on the path to solving, because they were not able to make a lot of agreements up here. Hopefully they'll be able to, again, come back around. Just quickly, a little bit about the Sunni Shia-Kurd dynamic. I hear it a lot, and I disagree with this. I'll try to explain it briefly. People say they've been fighting for thousands of years. No chance. Just let's get out and let them fight it out. They actually have not been fighting for thousands of years. They actually are there. Could you see that? Yes, as much as you can with Catholics and Protestants. We've been fighting for thousands of years. So if you're Catholic, please turn on your Protestant neighbor and tell them how much you hate them. I mean, this is almost what we expect of them. We expect that kind, and that's not true. To a large extent. And then the other part of this is Arab and Kurd are ethnic differences, Sunni and Shia are religious differences. You know, you mix them as if they're the same. Because you have different, you mix those differently. The one thing I want to point out here is why, again, these things are a factor, but I think we can't oversimplify them and rely on them too much. Iran is majority Shia, Iraq is majority Shia, but the Iranians are Persians, they're not Arab. So you get that? So Iran and Iraq are both majority Shia as far as a religion, but the Iranians are Persians, the Iraqis are Arabs, and you could say as much about animosity between them as you can in these other groups. As a matter of fact, that I think has more of a solid historical basis as a factor. So they will have a relationship, but remember they even fought under Saddam an 8-year war between Iran and Iraq. And that's not the first time there's an Arab-Persian conflict. So the bottom line I think I would say is these sectarian tensions do have a historical basis. If you want to see that they've been fighting for thousands of years and convince yourself that they'll never get along, you will find evidence of that. But I think there's more evidence as much the other way, if not, well, frankly, there is more evidence the other way. So the bottom line here is to say they do share an Iraqi identity, the vast majority. Almost 50% of the marriages in Baghdad, a city of 5.5 million people, are intermarried. So there's not this innate natural hatred. I could get on some more examples about how, again, there truly is an Iraqi identity. Yes, there's something to the British just drew artificial boundaries, but again, in that area still, there was and is a common identity from which Iraq could still emerge to be a relatively stable, relatively democratic, with basic respect for human rights, with a good relationship with the United States and with Iran, but good relationship with the United States. It's possible. So what is the relationship going to look like going forward? Just to quickly recap, here's the troop levels from the invasion all the way through when we just withdrew. We still do have an extremely large presence there. It's diplomatic. There's some, let me see here. We have about 16,000 civilians in Iraq and about 200 military at the embassy. Of that, about 1,700 is traditional diplomatic personnel, which is still huge for an embassy anywhere in the world. About almost 5,000 contractors that are continuing to train and develop the Iraqi military and Iraqi police. They're okay, they're not mercenaries, but that task is best done by the U.S., and I actually hope there's some negotiation, not just the U.S., but outside international partners. NATO had a training mission in Iraq the last couple of years. That's one of the things I strongly feel like we ought to bring back, negotiating with the Iraqis to be able to bring back. They have about 5,000 people doing the laundry, cooking the meals, providing the medical care, and then about 5,000 people who provide security. Also, more in the mercenary camp, but I don't want, most of them that highly professional, trying to do a good job. The problems that you heard about years ago, about the black waters and such, short version of that have been solved. We're not under any type of authority. now they are under U.S. law. They weren't under Iraqi law before, they weren't under military law before, they weren't under U.S. law before. Now that there is an accountability in the system that is vastly, vastly improved it. I think complete withdrawal was inevitable. The continued presence of U.S. forces there without some sort of break was not supported by the U.S. or the Iraqi people. We can go in, some people like to try political blame games here. I think that's off target. It just wasn't possible, nor do I think it was a good idea. Even from a professional development magazine, Army magazine, a clean break can be good for both countries, and I would argue it is good for both countries. If any further security agreement is reached by the two countries, which I hope there is, it will be from a new starting point and not a seamless continuation that carries with it numerous caveats and, frankly, a lot of baggage. It needed to be a clean break. So what do we do now? Short version, we support the Kurdistan regional government no matter what. I can explain why if we have more time, but I want to leave some time for questions. We should do this, negotiate for the re-entry of a NATO training force, that 5,000 contractors, to keep training the Iraqi army and Iraqi police. They could do a lot of good, and I wish I could explain a little bit more about how that works and why it's important. And I also think we ought to take advantage of you all in this room. I'm very serious about that. Public diplomacy efforts. Our country used to have a pretty successful public diplomacy program in the 50s, 60s, 70s. 80s started trailing off, obviously, for a lot of reasons after the fall of the Berlin Wall. There are ways to engage average citizens in what's going on in Iraq as well as elsewhere around the world. I see my friend Dave French here, training at Orbis Institute, an international program for students and other folks. These kinds of things are very important. We ought to be taking advantage of all of you. I would love to set up a program, short version, sending 10 or 15 Iraqis over to spend some time with your club and your club's members, go with you to your places of work, learn how you do things. You learn about them too, and they have some things professionally they can offer as well. We learn about each other. We send those back. One of the problems right now, and I'll just quickly cover this, we have that robust diplomatic effort in Baghdad, like I said. It's diplomats and contractors. Critically important. Love what they do. Need to do more of it. Not saying anything bad about that. But we need to engage. We need thousands of connections with the Iraqi people, not just a few hundred by diplomats that rotate in and out, as good as they are. So there's lots of things that we could do. Get into that. So let's see here. I have 7 minutes. I've got a 4-minute video to show if you want to see some video of what a partnership did look like during the 2009 kind of good old days, if you will, and what I think we ought to be doing somewhat in the future, and we can go to questions. Do you guys want to spend the time watching the video, or you want to go to questions? Okay.
Joe, my suggestion is that this is a fabulous program, that's not suggesting it's a bag, but that we let Joe go beyond our normal time. Those of you who need to leave at 1 o'clock, please feel free to get up and leave. But my thought would be to show the video, open it up to questions, maybe circle back around and cover some of those points that you were able to cover as much as you would like.
Well, let me try to get right to the video. And yes, if you do have to leave, Mike. Sorry for going long.